I am AI Avdar of CA Ratan Mundra. The International Financial Services Centres Authority, commonly known as IFSCA, issued an important order concerning Nutana Aviation Capital IFSC Pvt Ltd, a finance company operating in GIFT City, Gujarat. The company was registered under the IFSCA Finance Company Regulations 2021 and was authorized to undertake aircraft leasing activities within the International Financial Services Centre. As a regulated entity, it was expected to comply with several operational and regulatory requirements laid down by the authority. However, during supervisory inspections and compliance reviews, various concerns were identified. These concerns eventually led to regulatory action, issuance of advisory letters, and a show cause notice. This case provides valuable insights into the importance of maintaining operational readiness, ensuring manpower availability, displaying regulatory approvals, and complying with fee payment requirements. The order serves as a learning opportunity for all IFSC entities operating under IFSCA regulations and highlights the regulator's approach toward enforcement and corrective action. Nutana Aviation Capital received its certificate of registration from IFSCA in January 2023. The registration allowed the company to conduct aircraft operating lease activities under the framework for aircraft lease issued by the authority. Along with the registration certificate, several conditions and compliance requirements were communicated to the company. These conditions included maintaining a functional office, displaying the certificate of registration at the registered office, deploying adequate resources, and ensuring timely payment of regulatory fees. Such conditions are not merely administrative formalities but form an essential part of the regulatory framework governing financial institutions in GIFT IFSC. Every registered entity is expected to continuously comply with these requirements throughout its operational lifecycle. Failure to do so may invite supervisory intervention and enforcement measures. Therefore, registration is only the beginning of compliance obligations and not the end of the regulatory journey. As part of its supervisory responsibilities, IFSCA conducts surprise inspections and on-site assessments of regulated entities operating within GIFT IFSC. These inspections are intended to verify whether companies are complying with regulatory requirements and maintaining operational standards. In this case, the authority conducted multiple surprise visits during the years 2023, 2024, and 2025. During these visits, officials attempted to verify the operational status of Nutana Aviation Capital and assess whether the company maintained adequate infrastructure and personnel. Such inspections are a critical element of risk-based supervision because they allow regulators to assess actual ground-level operations rather than relying solely on submitted reports. Through these surprise visits, the authority gathers evidence regarding compliance culture, governance standards, and operational readiness. The findings of these inspections eventually became a key factor in the enforcement proceedings initiated against the company. During several surprise inspections, the authority observed significant compliance deficiencies. The office premises of the company were found closed on multiple occasions. Regulatory officers also noted that no personnel or key managerial employees were present at the registered office during the inspections. In addition, the valid certificate of registration was not displayed at the premises as required under the regulatory conditions. These observations raised concerns regarding the operational status and compliance commitment of the entity. Regulators expect registered entities to maintain a functional office and ensure the presence of responsible personnel to facilitate supervision and oversight. The absence of manpower and non-display of regulatory approvals may indicate weaknesses in governance and compliance management. These findings formed the basis for further action by the authority and triggered formal communication with the company. Before initiating formal enforcement proceedings, IFSCA adopted a corrective approach by issuing advisory letters to the company. Through these communications, the authority advised the company to keep its office operational, ensure the presence of management personnel, install appropriate signage, display the certificate of registration, and clear pending regulatory dues. The authority also requested compliance reports and updates regarding corrective actions taken by the company. Advisory letters are generally intended to provide regulated entities with an opportunity to rectify deficiencies voluntarily before stronger enforcement measures are considered. However, despite these communications, compliance issues continue to persist, leading the authority to intensify its supervisory response. This stage demonstrates how regulators often provide opportunities for corrective action before moving toward penalties or enforcement proceedings. After evaluating the findings of inspections and the continued compliance deficiencies, IFSCA issued a formal show cause notice to the company. The notice outlined three primary allegations. First, the company had failed to display its certificate of registration at the IFSCA office. Second, it had failed to deploy resources and personnel commensurate with its operations. Third, it had not paid applicable recurring regulatory fees within the prescribed timeline. Through the show cause notice, the authority required the company to explain why regulatory action should not be initiated under the applicable provisions of the IFSCA Act and Finance Company Regulations. A show cause notice is an important legal step in regulatory enforcement because it provides an opportunity for the affected entity to present its side of the story and explain the circumstances behind the alleged violations. In response to the show cause notice, Nutana Aviation Capital submitted detailed explanations regarding each allegation. The company stated that it was in the process of relocating its office due to operational and developer-related issues, which temporarily affected the display of its registration certificate. Regarding manpower deployment, the company explained that it was still in the initial stages of business development and was actively engaged in planning, recruitment, meetings with financial institutions, and aircraft acquisition activities. The company further stated that additional personnel would be deployed as business operations expanded. Concerning the delayed payment of annual fees, the company explained that the delay resulted from initial cash flow alignment challenges and assured the authority that pending dues had been cleared. The company also committed to ensuring timely compliance in the future. Following the written response, the authority scheduled a personal hearing before its quasi-judicial authority for enforcement. During this hearing, representatives of the company appeared and presented their submissions. They reiterated the explanations already provided in the written response and emphasized that corrective actions had been undertaken. The company informed the authority that the previously identified deficiencies had been rectified and that it was now in compliance with the applicable requirements. Personal hearings are a crucial component of natural justice because they provide entities with a direct opportunity to clarify facts, address concerns, and present mitigating circumstances before a final decision is made. The hearing enabled the authority to evaluate not only the original violations but also the corrective measures subsequently implemented by the company. After reviewing inspection findings, documentary evidence, written submissions, and oral arguments presented during the hearing, the quasi-judicial authority concluded that the company had indeed failed to comply with certain regulatory requirements. The authority found that the company had not adequately displayed its certificate of registration, had failed to maintain manpower commensurate with its operations, and had delayed payment of applicable fees. However, the authority also recognized that these lapses primarily occurred during the initial operational phase of the company. Importantly, the authority acknowledged that corrective actions had subsequently been implemented and that the deficiencies had been addressed. As a result, the authority considered whether imposing severe sanctions such as suspension or cancellation of registration would be proportionate under the circumstances. In its final order, the authority decided not to suspend or cancel the registration of Nutana Aviation Capital. Instead, considering the corrective measures already undertaken, it issued a formal advisory directing the company to maintain strict compliance with all applicable regulations in the future. The authority clearly warned that any similar lapses occurring again could attract stricter regulatory action. Consequently, the show cause proceedings were closed and the order came into effect immediately. This case highlights several important compliance lessons for all entities operating in GIFT IFSC. Companies must maintain an active and functional office, ensure adequate manpower deployment, display regulatory approvals as required, pay regulatory fees on time, and respond promptly to supervisory communications. Ultimately, compliance is not merely about obtaining registration. It is about continuously demonstrating operational integrity and regulatory responsibility. Moon Says and Management Consultants LLP, a trusted partner for SEZ and IFSC excellence, a pioneer in establishing SEZ and IFSC units within GIFT City in India, delivering end-to-end IFSC setup, operational support, and handling compliances, risk management. Renowned for deep expertise in regulatory approvals, capital markets, fund management, insurance, finance company, foreign university, BATF, and ancillary regulations, and fintech. Expertise in customs clearance for aircraft and ship procurement, leasing, GST, DSPF, IFSCA, comprehensive support covering registration, reporting, and regulatory transitions, ensuring ring fencing, transparency, and global compliance standards. Join our network. Scan the QR codes below to stay connected with us.